What's up, everybody? Welcome to a new YouTube video. Here we're going to be answering JB's comment, and we're going to be talking about the topic of conversation. So I posted a video 2 days ago, day and a half ago. It says it was about how to create a high-converting clothing store on Shopify. And I got a question from JB. I got a comment. He says, I'm thinking of starting a fitness apparel clothing brand, just like Gymshark, here in the U.S. Is it possible to start with low capital, or do you need tens of thousands of dollars? And I answered and I said, you don't need tens of thousands of dollars. My clothing company that I sold, I started with around $2,000. True story, I did. In the bank. I spent a little more than half of that on the actual product. And not today, but tomorrow I'll make a video. If you're cool with that. He said, yeah, that would be great. And I'm going to now, guys, get on the story here. Let me go ahead and hop on this little app right here. We got OBS. Make this camera bigger, and let's get a little focused on today's video. All right. So let's talk. I remember when I was a freshman in college, and this is a long story, but I'm gonna kind of cut it down, and I'm gonna kind of give you information about starting your first clothing business, your clothing company. Okay? I'm going to give you the positive and the negative, the pros and the cons. I'm going to give you everything you need to know to build your clothing company. Okay? But I'm going to kind of base it a certain way. All right? When I first started, I was in college. But before I was in college, I was 17 years old. All right? I want you to picture something here. And I've had a lot of not a lot, but very, very few moments in my life where things took a very sharp turn very quickly. This is one of those moments. And maybe you're happening to deal with this similar thing, or maybe you're dealing with something that kind of is going to cause a very sharp turn in your life. And so I kind of want to, bring this up. And I'm going to tell my story, like I said, but I'm going to base it in reality, so we're actually contextualizing here so that you could actually benefit off of this video. So it all started when I was 17, 17 years old. I was in high school at the time. My mom was sick for about a very long time, maybe 8 years, 6 years, 7 years, whatever the number was. And she passed away with cancer when I was a senior in high school. After she passed away, my life became very, very serious. It became bleak almost. It became uninteresting. It wasn't like it used to be. I couldn't just sit there and joke around with friends anymore. I just didn't have the passion, or I didn't have the same mindset. I wasn't like a kid anymore. Almost like my innocence was taken away. Now, why does this matter to business? Well, what happened is prior to me turning 17, when I was a young kid, I would always figure out ways to make money. Okay? I would think, all right, I could take candy and sell it in school, or sodas and things like that. Things that were kind of like, entrepreneurial based. And I thought to myself, every kind of thing I brought up, it was kind of like shot down by my parents, because they were saying, you can't do this. I would try to do surveys online when I was like in the 4th grade, try to make money. It was kind of shot down because, my parents, they're not making a lot of money. They're thinking, what if this kid gives away our credit card number and we lose thousands of dollars, and we lose all of our savings. The budget was already tight anyway. So my dad said, listen, when you become an adult, you turn 18, you figure out how to make your own money with your own information and all this. You don't use our kind of stuff. And I said, all right, fine. So here I am about to turn 18, and I always told myself, this is as I was growing up, I was saying, when I turn 18, I'm going to do something great. I'm going to do something incredible. And here I was at 17. My life, like I said, took a shift. I wasn't the same kid I was anymore. It just, like I said, I felt like my innocence was taken away in a way. I kind of looked at the world a little bit differently. I was much more depressed, and I was already dealing with some issues before, but it now was at a heightened level. And the beauty about all this is when something happens to you, I always recommend you sit in solitude. You sit alone, because solitude is the thing that's going to get your mind right. Okay? Well, anyways, I had a lot of that. A lot of solitude. Didn't really talk to anybody. Even at the house was just quiet the whole day, from morning till night, for months on end. Eventually, it was time to go to college. And I go to college. I go to the orientation. I see how things are like all, very structured. And not that structure is a bad thing, but it was very controlling in a way. Like, you can't do certain things. It's just not what I wanted out of life. I hated control. I hated being controlled. And maybe this is why I became a good entrepreneur, is because I hate being stuck in a certain box, right? But anyways, here I am at college trying to force myself to be enthused, and show up to my first day and I'm like, this is it? Like, this is so boring. I kind of don't like this. But I pushed away that thought. A week and a half into it, I'm going nuts. I'm losing my mind. I'm telling myself, I can't do this. How am I going to tell my dad that I can't do college? Because, one of the promises that my dad made me promise my mom before she passed away while she was in the hospital was, I have to complete college. And my mom was almost as if she knew that I wanted to leave college before college had even started. She would say, make sure you finish college. And she would kind of like warn me. And I'll be like, yeah, Mom, no, don't worry. And I was under the impression that I was going to finish it because I didn't have these ideas of being a big entrepreneur or anything like that. Anyways, come to pass the time where my birthday hit a few months in. I'm still 17, by the way. Finally turned 18. And here's the big thing that I'm planning to start. And the idea is, a week and a half into college, I decide, okay, I'm going to start my first company online on the internet, because I figured, how else am I going to run a business? I'm gonna start a company. And I quit video games. I quit all that nerdy behavior. You guys know what I'm talking about. When you're a nerd and you don't really have much to do, you don't go outside or play sports. You just stay inside and play World of Warcraft all day. I quit all that, and I went all in on business. I would show up to college classes, and I told part of this story before, but I would sleep 4 hours a day. I would go to bed at 4 a.m., wake up at around 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock sometimes, go to class, maybe get an hour or two between the day of sleep in class if I can. If I can't, then I whip out the laptop, do some work on the laptop, on the business, etc. Now, during this whole time, I did not intend on building a clothing company, but I'll kind of tell you how it started. So I was intending on building a powerlifting brand, like powerlifting gear. There was only one or two competitors at the time. There was a company called Ray-Ban, and everybody was going crazy about this company. It was like where you wear these like knee sleeves for your business. And I thought, well, what if I could sell knee sleeves, elbow sleeves, wrist straps, lifting straps, etc.? Did a little Google search, and I said, wow, these don't cost that much. I have $2,000 in the bank. I could kind of figure something out. And so I ended up ordering overseas from China, from India, not from China, sorry. The materials, the products, all that kind of stuff. And, used Western Union for the first time in my life, had no idea what I was doing. The manufacturer got the money, and then everything went blank. For about a week and a half, I was emailing the manufacturer. I thought I got scammed. Emailing, no replies. I'm going nuts. I'm starting to lose my mind here. And then I finally get an email about a week and a half in. Now, the manufacturer is telling me, like, oh, go on Skype because he doesn't go on email too often. Meanwhile, he's emailing me every day prior to before he got the money. So I go on Skype. Now we're negotiating about how I want the products made, how I want things set up. Finally, I get the products. Half the products are damaged. So I figure out, okay, I got to figure out a different way to make money. I have these products, but they're not selling because at this time I had put it on Amazon, wasn't working. So I said, all right, let me do my own website. And when I say it wasn't working, I was getting sales in here and there, but I had to pay for ads. The ad costs was outweighing the profit margins. I wasn't making any money. I wasn't also getting reviews. I just, for every like 40 sales, you finally get a review on Amazon. For me, at least. Maybe the metrics were different for other people. So at this point, I said, all right, let me figure out what I could do. And so I went on these Chinese websites, and I found workout clothing. And I said, this is a good idea. I could put these on my website. Whenever somebody orders from me, I'll tell them the product is going to ship in 2 to 4 weeks. And I would send the product to their house. That is now called dropshipping. At the time, there were no books on this. There were no videos on this. There were no, whatever you want to call it. There was no information on this. There was no YouTube videos. There was no, entrepreneur guru talking about this on YouTube. It never existed. Not a single person had talked about it. So And basically, I remember telling my friend this that I used to go to the gym with. I used to tell him, like, this is what I'm doing, and he would be like, all right, so what's that business model called? I said, I don't know what it's called, but essentially this is what I do. Whenever somebody orders a product from me, I order overseas, and I send it to their address. Instead of putting my address, I put it to their address, and they get the product, and bingo. And then what I did was, over time, I realized that the clothing was selling so much faster than the powerlifting gear. And so I said, okay, let me just stick to the clothing. Mind you, I'm only selling men's products at this point. And so I say, okay, let's do more men's clothing. So that's where the kind of clothing store started. That's really how it began. From that point on, 9 months in, a year in, doing huge numbers. I don't want to say the numbers here because I don't want people to change my view of me. I'm just a regular guy, right? Doing very, very well. Let's just put it that way. Working every day on the business, still in college. And me and my dad came to an agreement. I said, Dad, I want to leave school. I think I'm doing well enough. And he said, you're not leaving school. That's the promise that you made to your mom. And I said, yeah, but, if my mom was here and seeing me do all this, success, I want things to kind of like change. I want to be out of school. And he said, no. How about this? And he picked like a wild number, like a really, really wild number. And he said, if you don't if you don't reach that number and you maintain it every single month, this was about 3 times more than what I was doing normally. So imagine let's just put it out there. Let's just say you're making $100,000 a month in sales profit. Let's just say he said basically $300,000 a month in sales profit. Then you get to kind of quit. And I was like, that's ridiculous. That's crazy. I can't do that. And basically he's like, well, it is what it is. You take it or leave it. Deal with it, right? And I said, okay. So I had no other choice, okay? But I just kept working on my business. At this point, I hated being in college. I hated being in school. I felt like it was a waste of time, making more than my professors combined in terms of income. Sometimes making more in a month than what they make in a year. But let's just keep it, let's just take the numbers out of the equation. Let's just talk story time here. Now, at this point, when I was selling the clothing, I learned a very few things, and this is where my answer comes to you, is that I started with almost nothing. We're talking about hundreds, thousands, less than $2,000, okay? The biggest expense that I had that got me locked in was the purchase of the website. I bought the hosting, I bought the domain name. Mind you, I had spelled the domain name wrong when I bought it. But I was so committed that I couldn't mess up now. I can't just walk away from this. Yeah, I spelled the domain name wrong, but I can't walk away. I'm too locked in. So the key to your answer, the key to your question, you say here, let me go ahead and read the question. It says, he's saying, I'm thinking of starting an apparel clothing business. Is it possible to start with low capital? The answer is absolutely. Realize that I want you to realize this, is that money is never a problem when starting a business. It's not a problem. Because usually the average business, we're talking real businesses that actually succeed, they don't start with much. They don't need big manufacturers and big resources and big machinery, big warehouses. They start small, just like everybody else. Okay? And they start from the ground up. And the point is you don't need a lot of money, because the reality is if you can't build a business with a smaller amount, you're definitely not going to be able to do it with a bigger amount. And what I realized was there's a few things that matter when it comes to making money online or building a business or building a clothing store in general. With clothing, it's a little bit different. It's a little more competitive now. But this was, like I said, I was doing this before, for example, the king of internet clothing right now. Think of Christian Guzman. You guys know of him. He has the Alpha Elite brand. I was doing this. I had sold my clothing company before he had released his. Put it that way, okay? The reality is with clothing is you're selling a complete commodity. Anybody can buy it anywhere. But it is the belief that the clothing provides to individuals of what makes that brand successful. I want you guys to see this, right? This is a, whatever you want to call this, chapstick, okay? You guys see this? Maybe you guys can see this. I don't know. Maybe the camera's too bright, whatever. Chapstick, right? This is, it's not I mean, you could even say it is a commodity, but you could buy this anywhere with any logo, with any branding on it for as cheap as $1, right? Maybe even cheaper. But there are specific sticks that are chapsticks that could cost $5. It costs $10. Could cost $30, depending on what's in it, right? But the reality is, if you really break down the ingredients, they're all the same. They're all pretty much identical. The only difference is your belief, your emotion. And that's what you need to realize when it comes to building a clothing company. Is that a clothing company, consumers purchase products off of emotion, not logic. There's a reason why people are willing to pay $500 for a Gucci t-shirt as opposed to paying for the exact same t-shirt without the Gucci logo at Walmart for $5. The reason is because emotion is what causes business, not logic whatsoever. And in the same token, you have to figure out as a master marketer to bring that emotion out of people. And it all starts with basic things, how the clothing looks, the models that are using the clothing, the background image that model is standing for. Every aspect matters when building a clothing company. Every single aspect. We're talking about the photographer that's shooting the photos, his style or her style. We're talking about the background. Is it a white silhouette like everybody else? Is it corporate, right? Which is fine if that's the look that you want to go with. But you have to ask yourself, how are you going to set all these things up? It doesn't cost that much. Like I said, it doesn't cost that much at all. But when we're talking about building a clothing company that you want to rely on, that you want to build a real business off of, I'm talking, this is the thing that you want to sell eventually, the thing that's going to build your future, the thing that's going to buy you your first house, the thing that's, you're really going to tell stories about and talk about like you were a Viking that conquered, different lands out there. This is the thing for you. If you really want to make it happen, you have to get good at that very one thing. That very one thing, that's the only thing that matters when it comes to clothing. Everything else you can figure out later. The logistics, how you're going to get the logos on the products, the tag, when you add a tag to a product, like a little tag or like packaging. And I could sit here and I could ramble for hours like, oh, you need a certain kind of material for packaging, or you need to do it this way, or you need to... All of that is irrelevant. The only thing that matters when it comes to clothing is what emotion are you getting out of people for that clothing, okay? This is the reason, for example, why Jake Paul merch sold so well, and it probably still sells pretty well, but back then it was like really a focus. Do you guys remember when Jake Paul used to do blogging or vlogging, and he would record videos every single day, and he would have this whole tagline, "It's every day, bro"? What I would marvel is how well he could sell the merch. How well he could sell the merch. Because the merch, the clothing, it was just a regular design, but he made multi-millions of dollars on a monthly basis off of it. Why? It's not because he had brainless fans. It's because he elicited an emotion out of his user base, out of his customers. You got parents wearing his t-shirts. You got kids wearing them. You got kids from ages like 2, 4, 5, 6, and up. Parents. Why do you think that is? And, I see majority of people, like 99% of the people, do terrible with clothing because they don't understand that one concept. What emotion are you going to take out? And that's called branding. A perfect example of somebody who does this really, really, really well is a guy named Seth Feroce in the bodybuilding world. This guy, he knows how to brand. And he knows how to brand for his specific brand. His whole brand is like this: the hard worker in the gym, the hardest worker, this lumberjack, hardworking, honest guy that, he just has a good brand around him. You have to figure out what is going to be the brand of your business, because the world doesn't need another Gymshark. The world doesn't need another Alfleet. The world doesn't need another Lululemon or Gucci or Louis Vuitton. The world needs whatever you're going to bring out, but it can't be like everybody else. You have to figure out what emotion are you going to bring out and do it your way. Any kind of brand that's like a copycat brand is a brand that will eventually go out of business. It might make money here and there, but it's going to go out of business. Because the rule is that entrepreneur behind the scenes, behind the camera, behind the screen, they're the ones who are responsible for bringing the product up front, bringing the product to the people. But if the sentiment of that entrepreneur is to just copy. Well, what have they learned? What have they added to the world? What have they changed? The answer is absolutely nothing. They're just copying. So what happens is when there's some kind of issue in business, when there's some kind of revival in the community, some change in people's outlooks, that person is not going to be able to keep up. So my biggest piece of advice for you starting your own clothing company is don't worry about the money. Don't worry about the logistics. Don't worry about the packaging. Don't worry about anything that's secondary. Worry about how are you going to sell this brand to people. How are you going to get that emotion out of people? And I can't answer that question for you. I mean, maybe if you hired a mentor for 50 grand, 100 grand, they might be able to show you how to do that. Most of the time, they won't be able to unless they've actually done it. I can tell you that I've done it, but that's not my game. I don't make money off of mentoring people. I don't even mentor people. That's not even my realm of life right now. I think maybe I'll do that like 10 years before I die or something, but my point is you have to sit down with yourself and you have to think deep and hard about why you over everybody else. Why would somebody buy and fork over their money to somebody they don't know buying your product? And if you can't answer that question, you have nothing in the world of clothing. It's look, listen to this, guys. The hardest thing to do is build a true brand, a brand. It's the hardest thing to do, but it's one of the things that pay the best. It's one of the things that down the line pays itself in perpetuity. I mean, you can't nothing matches a true brand. We're talking about a true brand that people have a true emotional connection to. We're talking different levels here, different levels of consumerism. Okay? Some people are willing to, look at FaZe Clan. People tattoo that logo on their hands. People, what's that other company name? The Gamer Fuel. What is it called? That the whole FaZe Clan people drink the juices, whatever it's called. It's that powder stuff they drink for the gamers. I mean, my point here is, guys, is that you want to impact people so deep and so hard that they have no choice but to buy from your products. You get what I'm trying to say? My point here is, guys, is what I'm saying with all this is, don't be a copycat brand, and don't believe this idea that you're limited on money. You're not limited on money. I don't care if you have $500. You're not limited on money. Your best resource, the most powerful tool you have is your mind. And that's going to be the tool that's going to get you the success. It's not going to be the logistics behind it. It's not going to be the images of the products. It's not going to even be the Shopify theme. I've talked about Shopify themes all the time. And I've actually said this before. I've said a Shopify theme is a weapon. Just like, a warrior being in battle, a soldier being in battle with a shield and a sword, let's say. A Shopify theme is a weapon, just like any other weapon, an axe, a sword, etc. But it is the user of that weapon that will know how to wield it and use it in battle. You give a great weapon to somebody who has no courage, no bravery, the fear of death. If that exists in them, they're going to die and they're not going to be able to use that weapon. But if you give that weapon to the right person, it doesn't matter what kind of weapon it is. It could be a piece of wood with a sharp edge on it. That guy's going to be a killer. And the reason why is it's because the person behind it, the emotion behind it, the mentality behind it, okay? So, once again, close off the video. It doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter the only thing that matters is who you are, really, who you are, and what your capability is. Beside all the resources, beside all the money, the fame, and all that, who are you really? Are you able to bring that emotion out of people? Or are you just trying to get rich like everybody else? That's really what it comes down to. And that's my best advice for building a real clothing brand. Because, like I said, guys, clothing is like you could buy a t-shirt from anywhere. Anywhere you could buy you could go to Walmart and buy a t-shirt literally for like $5. You could go to Kmart, Sears, whatever, and buy a t-shirt anywhere. But why would somebody buy it from your website over any other? You got to pay attention to that. Thank you guys for watching. I'll talk to you guys later. If this video resonated with you, please let me know. That's all I got to really say. Talk to you guys later. Peace out. Bye.